publicly humiliated. She resigned after a coffee incident. Her billionaire boss made a shocking offer. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us go back to our main character. Her name is Evelyn Carter, and on that Monday morning, she woke up already tired of fighting a world that never seemed to listen. The alarm went off at 6:30, the same time it had for the last 3 years. She stared at the ceiling of her small apartment, counting the faint cracks above her bed, knowing she could not afford to be late. Not today. Not ever. By 8:15, Evelyn was standing inside a glass tower in downtown Chicago, holding a paper cup of coffee that was already cooling in her hands. The office smelled like polished wood, expensive cologne, and quiet pressure. This was Harrington Global, a place where every step echoed, and every mistake lingered longer than it should. Evelyn was not careless. She was not lazy. She worked late nights, skipped lunches, and answered emails long after midnight. But none of that mattered when you were invisible. The conference room doors closed behind her with a soft click. Around the table sat executives in tailored suits, tablets glowing, eyes sharp. At the head of the table stood Nathan Harrington, the billionaire chief executive officer. Tall, composed, untouchable. His voice alone could silence a room. Evelyn took her seat, heart steady but cautious. The presentation began. Numbers appeared on the screen, projections, timelines. Then it happened. Nathan stopped mid-sentence. He turned, not to the charts, but to her. "This data is wrong," he said, his tone flat, controlled, and cold. Every eye in the room shifted to Evelyn. She opened her mouth to speak, to explain, to clarify, but he did not let her finish. "This is basic," Nathan continued. "If you cannot handle simple responsibility, maybe you should not be here." The room went still. Evelyn felt heat rush to her face. Her fingers tightened around the coffee cup. She could feel her pulse in her ears. This was not feedback. This was not leadership. This was humiliation, delivered cleanly and publicly. She stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor, loud and sharp. Nathan looked at her, surprised for the first time. "I checked those numbers 3 times, Evelyn said, her voice steady, even as her hands shook. "You approved them yourself." A murmur moved through the room. Nathan did not respond. He only looked at her, expression unreadable, waiting. Something inside Evelyn snapped. She did not plan it. She did not think. The coffee left her hand in a single, irreversible motion. It splashed across Nathan's white shirt, dark liquid spreading fast. Gasps filled the room. Someone stood up. Someone else froze. "I quit," Evelyn said. She placed her resignation letter on the table, right in front of him. Then she turned and walked out, her heels echoing down the hallway, each step carrying both terror and relief. By noon, she was sitting alone on a park bench 2 blocks away, phone buzzing with unanswered calls, staring at her bank app. Rent was due in 2 weeks. Her savings barely covered groceries. The city moved around her, loud and indifferent. She had just thrown coffee on a billionaire, and she had just lost the only job standing between her and nothing. Evelyn thought it was over. She did not know that this was only the beginning. Evelyn did not sleep that night. She lay on her side, staring at the dim glow of the streetlight outside her window, replaying the moment over and over again. The silence after the coffee hit his shirt, the way the room froze, the sound of her own voice when she said the words she had never imagined saying out loud. "I quit." By morning, reality settled in. At 7:45, she opened her banking app again, even though she already knew the numbers would not change. Rent, utilities, student loans, groceries. The margin between surviving and failing was thinner than it had ever been. She sat at her small kitchen table, coffee untouched, resume open on her laptop, forcing herself to breathe. By 10 o'clock, her phone rang, an unknown number. She let it ring once, twice, then she answered. "Miss Carter," a calm female voice said. "This is Laura Bennett, executive assistant to Mr. Harrington. He would like to see you today, at noon." Evelyn laughed, short and humorless. "I no longer work there," she replied. There was a pause on the line, just long enough to feel intentional. "This meeting is not about your position. Laura said. Transportation will be arranged if you need it. The call ended before Evelyn could respond. At 11:45, a black sedan pulled up outside her building. Evelyn stood on the sidewalk for a full minute before opening the door. Every instinct told her to walk away. But another voice, quieter and more practical, reminded her that walking away did not pay rent. The drive back to Harrington Global felt unreal, like stepping backward into a scene she had already lived through. When she entered the building, no one stopped her. No one stared. It was as if yesterday had been erased. She was escorted to a private office on the top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows, leather chairs, silence thick enough to press against her chest. Nathan Harrington stood by the window, his back to her. His shirt was different, crisp, immaculate. There was no trace of coffee. "You asked to see me," Evelyn said, breaking the silence. He turned slowly. His expression was controlled but not cold. "Not this time." "Sit," he said. She did not. "I am not here to apologize," Nathan continued. "And I am not here to discuss what happened in that conference room." Evelyn crossed her arms. "Then why am I here?" He studied her for a moment, as if measuring something invisible. "Because you walked out," he said, "and people do not walk out on me." She almost smiled at that. "I was publicly humiliated," Evelyn replied. "You do not get to reframe that." Nathan nodded once. "Agreed," he said, "which is why this is not a negotiation." He slid a thin folder across the desk toward her. Evelyn hesitated before opening it. Inside was a contract, 6 pages, clean, precise, no legal theatrics. "Read it," Nathan said. She did. A fixed-term agreement, 12 months, compensation that made her breath catch, housing allowance, travel covered, a clearly defined role, public partner, appear with him at corporate events, charity galas, board-related functions, maintain discretion, no personal disclosures. Evelyn looked up slowly. "You want me to pretend to be something I am not," she said. "I want you to be exactly what you were yesterday," Nathan replied. "Unscripted." She shook her head. "Why me?" "Because credibility matters," he said, and you did not flinch. The room went quiet. "This is a contract," Nathan continued, "not control. You set boundaries. You keep your independence. At the end of 12 months it ends, cleanly." "And if I say no?" Evelyn asked. Nathan met her gaze. "Then you walk out again," he said, this time with options. Evelyn closed the folder, her heart pounding. Yesterday, she had nothing left to lose. Today, she was being offered something that could change everything. She did not know yet whether it was an opportunity or a trap. But she knew one thing for certain. This was no longer just about coffee. Evelyn left the building with the contract still tucked under her arm. The city felt louder than usual. Car horns, footsteps, snatches of conversation drifting past her as she walked without a clear destination. She did not open the folder again. She already knew what was inside. Numbers she had never imagined attached to her name. Conditions that sounded unreal. A role that felt dangerously close to crossing a line she had spent her whole life protecting. By late afternoon, she was back in her apartment, sitting on the edge of her bed with the contract laid out in front of her. Sunlight spilled across the pages, highlighting phrases that refused to stay quiet. 12-month term. Public appearances required. Discretion mandatory. She read every line again, slowly, carefully. There were no hidden clauses about obedience. No language that trapped her beyond the stated time. The boundaries were precise, almost surgical. At 7 o'clock, her phone buzzed. A message from Laura Bennett. "Mr. Harrington requests your decision by tomorrow morning." Evelyn set the phone down and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. She thought about the park bench, the cold calculation of her bank balance, the way her chest had tightened when Nathan said, "This is a contract, not control." She thought about pride. Then she thought about survival. The next morning, she returned. This time, she walked into Harrington Global with her shoulders back. She was escorted to a smaller conference room, less imposing, more neutral. Nathan was already there, seated, hands folded on the table. "You came," he said. "I am not agreeing yet," Evelyn replied. "I have conditions." Nathan nodded once. "Good." She placed the contract between them and pointed to the margins she had marked. "No unscheduled appearances," she said. "No commentary on my past role here, and I retain the right to walk away if the terms are violated." Nathan did not hesitate. Accepted. And I do not live with you, Evelyn added. A flicker of something crossed his face. Surprise, perhaps? Then it was gone. Accepted, he repeated. Silence settled between them, heavier now, but not hostile. Evelyn picked up the pen. She signed. The first public appearance came sooner than she expected. 3 days later, Evelyn stood in front of a full-length mirror in a borrowed suite overlooking the river. A stylist adjusted the hem of her dress. Another handed her shoes that cost more than her monthly rent had ever been. Her reflection looked unfamiliar, but not false. She looked composed, controlled. Nathan arrived precisely on time. When he saw her, he paused. Not long, just long enough to notice. "You look ready," he said. "I am," Evelyn replied, though her pulse disagreed. The charity gala was held in a historic hotel downtown. Cameras flashed the moment they stepped out of the car. Voices called Nathan's name. Eyes shifted to her. Who is she? Since when? Nathan placed his hand at the small of her back, light and deliberate. "This is Evelyn," he said to the nearest reporter. "She is with me." No explanation, no claim, just a statement. Inside, the room buzzed with speculation. Evelyn felt it in the glances, the whispers, the sudden interest. But something unexpected happened. Nathan did not lead her. He matched her pace. When a donor spoke too sharply, he redirected the conversation. When someone dismissed her presence, he corrected them calmly, without raising his voice. "This is not a performance," he said quietly to her at one point. "You do not owe anyone anything." Evelyn looked at him then, really looked at him. For the first time, she saw the restraint behind the control, the intention behind the silence. Later that night, back in the car, the city lights blurring past the windows, Evelyn let out a breath she did not realize she had been holding. "You did not have to do that," she said. Nathan turned to her. "Yes," he replied. "I did." The contract lay between them, invisible but present. And for the first time since she signed it, Evelyn wondered if the rules they had written would be enough to keep their distance. The next week settled into a rhythm Evelyn had never known before. Her mornings were still quiet, still hers. Coffee at her kitchen counter, sunlight on the same cracked wall. But her afternoons belonged to a different world now, meetings she attended only as an observer, dinners where her presence shifted the room before she said a word. She learned quickly when to speak and when silence carried more weight. Nathan never rehearsed her. He never corrected her tone or her posture. The only rule he repeated was simple. "Do not shrink," he told her once, as they waited backstage before a corporate foundation event. "If someone underestimates you, let them." At first, Evelyn thought this arrangement would feel like pretending, but the longer it went on, the more she realized how little she was asked to fake. At a board reception in New York, an investor dismissed her as decorative. Nathan did not raise his voice. He simply turned to Evelyn and asked her opinion on the foundation's expansion strategy. She answered calmly, thoughtfully. The investor did not interrupt again. Late one evening, after a long dinner that left her feet aching and her patience thin, Evelyn sat beside Nathan in the back of the car. Rain streaked the windows, turning the city into blurred lines of light. "You use silence like a weapon," she said quietly. Nathan glanced at her. "I used to use control," he replied. Silence came later. She did not ask what that meant. She was beginning to understand that Nathan Harrington was a man shaped by restraint, not impulse. Every decision measured, every emotion contained. Almost. The shift came on a Tuesday night. They were returning from a charity planning meeting when the car stalled at a red light. Nathan leaned back, loosened his tie slightly, and exhaled. "I never thanked you," he said. "For what?" Evelyn asked. "For staying," he replied. "Most people do not." The words hung between them. "This is still a contract," Evelyn said carefully. "Yes," Nathan said, "but it did not have to become easier." Evelyn looked at him, noticing the faint lines near his eyes, the tension he rarely allowed himself to release. "You humiliated me," she said, not accusing, just stating a fact. "I know," he answered, "and I was wrong." It was the first apology he had offered her. No justification, no defense. The car began moving again. That night, Evelyn lay awake longer than usual. Not because she felt trapped, but because something unexpected had begun to surface. Trust. The next public test came sooner than she expected. At a high-profile gala in San Francisco, A journalist cornered Evelyn near the terrace, voice sharp, camera light glaring. "Are you here because of a relationship?" the reporter asked, "or because you were fired and needed leverage?" The question cut clean. Before Evelyn could respond, Nathan stepped forward. "That will be enough," he said calmly. "This event is about the foundation, not speculation." "But is she your employee?" the reporter pressed. Nathan did not hesitate. "No," he said. "She is here because I asked her to be." Nothing more. The exchange ended there. Later, as they stood overlooking the bay, Evelyn finally spoke. "You could have shut that down differently," she said. "You chose not to." Nathan nodded. "Power only works if people believe you owe them explanations." She turned to him, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. "And what do you owe me?" she asked. Nathan was quiet for a long moment. "Honesty," he said, "and a choice." That was when Evelyn realized the contract was changing, even if the paper had not. What had started as protection was turning into something far more dangerous: connection, and neither of them had written rules for that. The tension finally broke in a place Evelyn did not expect. It was not during a gala or a board dinner or a room full of strangers waiting for a mistake. It happened on a quiet Sunday afternoon, inside a modern apartment overlooking the river, Nathan's apartment. They were there for a practical reason: a donor dinner scheduled later that evening. Weather delays. Time to wait. Evelyn stood near the windows, watching boats move slowly across the water. The city looked softer from this height, less demanding. Nathan loosened his jacket and set it aside, something he rarely did in front of anyone. "You can sit," he said, gesturing toward the couch. "I am fine," Evelyn replied, though her feet disagreed. She turned to face him. "This cannot keep pretending nothing is changing," she said. "We are crossing lines that were not in the contract." Nathan did not deny it. "I know," he said. "Then say it," Evelyn pressed. "Say what this is becoming." Nathan walked closer but stopped short of her space. He kept his distance, deliberately. "When I made you that offer," he said, "it was about control, damage containment, optics." She nodded. "And now?" "And now," he continued, "it is about not losing you." The honesty landed heavier than any dramatic declaration could have. Evelyn felt her chest tighten. "You do not get to decide that alone," she said quietly. "I am not trying to," Nathan replied. "That is why I have not touched you. That is why I have not asked." She searched his face, looking for manipulation. She found restraint instead. "I will not be owned," Evelyn said. "Not by a contract, not by money, not by feelings that do not respect my choice." Nathan nodded. "Then do not be." Silence filled the room. Evelyn reached into her bag and pulled out the folded contract. She placed it on the table between them. "This protected me when I needed it," she said. "But it cannot be what defines us now." Nathan did not stop her as she unfolded the pages. He watched as she tore the document cleanly in half. Then again. She set the pieces down. "If this continues," Evelyn said, her voice steady, "it does so without guarantees." Nathan exhaled slowly, as if he had been holding his breath for weeks. "Then let me be clear," he said. "If you walk away today, I will not follow. If you stay, it is because you choose to. No offers, no leverage." Evelyn stepped closer. "For the first time," she said, "that sounds like respect." That evening, they arrived at the donor dinner separately. There were no cameras waiting, no questions shouted. Inside, the atmosphere was warmer, quieter. When Nathan joined her at the table, he did not place a hand on her back. He did not signal ownership or control. He simply sat beside her. Later, as they walked out into the night air, Evelyn stopped beneath the soft glow of streetlights. "You asked me once why I did not flinch," she said. "Yes," Nathan replied. "It is because I have learned that staying silent costs more than walking away," Evelyn continued. "I stayed this time because you finally did not ask me to disappear into your shadow." Nathan met her gaze. "I am not asking you to stay," he said. "I am asking you to choose." Evelyn smiled, small but certain. "I already did." They did not touch. They did not rush. But as they walked side by side into the city, the space between them no longer felt like a contract. It felt like possibility. The fallout did not arrive loudly. It came quietly, disguised as concern. 3 days after the donor dinner, Evelyn noticed the shift. Emails that used to include her name no longer did. Invitations arrived late, if at all. When she entered rooms with Nathan, conversations paused. then resumed with careful politeness. Something was moving beneath the surface. The confirmation came on a Thursday morning. Evelyn was scrolling through her phone when a headline appeared from a business news outlet she recognized. CEO's mysterious companion raises ethics questions at Harrington Global. Her chest tightened. The article did not accuse directly. It did not need to. It framed questions instead, suggested implications, recalled the coffee incident, quoted anonymous sources who hinted that her presence was strategic and self-serving. By noon, the board requested an emergency meeting. Nathan did not ask her to attend. "You should stay away today," he said over the phone. His voice was calm, but she could hear the restraint beneath it. "That is not your decision," Evelyn replied. "This is my responsibility," Nathan said. "I will handle it." Evelyn hung up and stared at the wall. By late afternoon, the story had spread. Another outlet picked it up, then another. The narrative sharpened. Speculation became assumption. Her name trended briefly, stripped of context, reduced to implication. She returned to the building anyway. Security hesitated before letting her through. The boardroom doors were closed. Evelyn waited outside, listening to muted voices rise and fall behind the glass. She could not hear the words, but she recognized the tone. Pressure, calculation, risk assessment. When the doors finally opened, Nathan stepped out alone. His expression told her everything. "They want you gone," he said quietly. "Not because you did anything wrong, because you are effective." Evelyn nodded. She had expected that. "They believe my judgment is compromised," Nathan continued. "They are wrong, but belief is not something you can argue away." She looked at him steadily. "This ends if I walk," she said. "Yes," Nathan replied. "At least for now." Evelyn exhaled slowly. "This is not the first time someone has tried to erase me to protect their comfort," she said. "But it will be the last time I pretend it does not hurt." Nathan reached out, then stopped himself. "I will fight this," he said. "And you will lose," Evelyn replied. "Not because you are wrong, because they know how to wait." Silence settled between them. "I will step back," Evelyn said. "Publicly. Immediately." Nathan shook his head. "I did not ask you to sacrifice yourself." "You did not," she agreed. "I am choosing it." She paused. "Not for you," she added. "For myself." That evening, a short statement was released. Evelyn Carter would no longer attend public events alongside Nathan Harrington. No explanation was offered, no apology given. The reaction was immediate. Praise from the board, relief from investors, silence from Nathan. Days passed without contact. Evelyn returned to her apartment, to the quiet she had nearly forgotten. She applied for work again, not glamorous positions, real ones, stable ones. At night, she wondered if she had mistaken restraint for commitment. 1 week later, she received a message, not from Nathan, from Laura Bennett. "Please come to the Foundation Auditorium tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Evelyn did not reply. She arrived anyway. The room was full when she entered. Employees, donors, press, board members seated in the front row. Nathan stood at the podium. He looked out over the room, then spoke. "This company was built on performance," he said, "but it survived because of accountability." A murmur moved through the audience. "I am aware of the speculation surrounding my personal judgment," Nathan continued. "So let me be clear. Every decision involving Evelyn Carter was mine, and I stand by them." Evelyn felt her breath catch. "If protecting this company requires silence," Nathan said, "then I am willing to be loud instead." The room went still. Evelyn realized then that the choice she made had not ended the story. It had only forced the truth into the open. And now, there was no contract left to hide behind. The room did not applaud. It did not need to. Nathan's words hung in the air long after he stepped away from the podium. Board members exchanged looks that were too controlled to be accidental. Donors shifted in their seats. The press leaned forward, already rewriting the narrative in their heads. Evelyn stood near the back, unseen by most, her hands clenched together. She had not expected this. Not now. Not like this. Nathan had chosen visibility over safety, and there would be consequences. They came quickly. Within 48 hours, the board issued a formal notice. Not public, not yet. It cited governance concerns, reputational risk, a need for stability during a sensitive quarter. The language was careful, but the message was not. Nathan was being cornered. He called Evelyn that evening. "I should not have done that without warning you," he said. His voice sounded tired for the first time since she had known him. You told the truth, Evelyn replied. That matters. It may cost me control of the company, Nathan said. Evelyn closed her eyes. Then you need to let me go, she said softly. Completely. There was a pause on the line. That is not what I want, Nathan said. I know, Evelyn replied. But this is bigger than us. The board meeting the following week was closed door and final. Nathan emerged hours later to cameras and speculation. His expression revealed nothing. The official statement followed before nightfall. Nathan Harrington would step back from day-to-day leadership pending an internal review. It was a temporary move. Everyone understood what that meant. The next morning, Evelyn found herself standing outside Harrington Global once more, the glass tower reflecting a version of her life she no longer lived. She did not go inside. She did not need to. Nathan met her later that day, not in an office or a car, but in a quiet cafe far from downtown. No suits, no assistants, no cameras. I am going to lose this fight, he said plainly. Evelyn studied his face, searching for regret. She did not find it. Do you regret speaking? She asked. No, Nathan said. I regret waiting so long. She nodded. This is where we stop pretending this is simple, Evelyn said. If I stay near you now, everything you say will be questioned. Everything you do will be filtered through me. Nathan leaned forward. I am not asking you to stay, he said. I am asking you not to disappear. Evelyn swallowed. This is the part where love stories usually lie, she said, where someone promises it will be different. Nathan did not interrupt. I cannot be your shield, Evelyn continued, and I will not be your weakness. Silence stretched between them, heavy and honest. Then what are you saying? Nathan asked. Evelyn met his eyes. I am choosing distance, she said. Not because I doubt you, because I respect both of us. Nathan sat back slowly. For how long? He asked. For as long as it takes for you to stand without me being used against you, Evelyn replied. She stood. This started with a contract, she said. It became something real because you learned to let go of control. This is the last test of that. Nathan did not reach for her. I will not follow, he said quietly. Evelyn nodded once. As she walked away, she felt the weight of the decision settle into her bones. This was not a dramatic exit. There were no promises shouted across the street, no last touches, only choice. And for the first time, it hurt because it mattered. Behind her, Nathan watched her disappear into the crowd, knowing that if he truly respected her, he had to let her go, even if it meant facing everything alone. The distance did not make things quieter. It made them clearer. Weeks passed. Headlines shifted. The internal review moved forward with the slow precision of corporate politics. Nathan remained visible, but restrained, his authority clipped, his presence carefully measured. He attended meetings without comment. He gave no interviews. He let speculation exhaust itself. Evelyn watched from a distance she had chosen. She returned to work on her own terms, consulting for a nonprofit in the city, the kind of place that valued impact over optics. The pay was modest, the work was real. For the first time in months, she felt grounded again. Still, some nights, she wondered if restraint alone could hold against a system designed to wear people down. The turning point came unexpectedly. An internal memo leaked, not to the press at first, but to employees. It outlined a pattern of board decisions made quietly over years. Compromises, silenced concerns, optics over accountability. Nathan's name appeared often, but not as the cause, as the counterweight. By the time the story reached the media, it had changed shape. The narrative shifted. This was no longer about a mysterious companion or a coffee incident. It was about leadership, about who had spoken up and who had benefited from silence. The board reacted defensively, too defensively. An independent audit was announced within days. Nathan was called to testify before the review panel. He did not bring lawyers to speak for him. He spoke himself. I made mistakes, he said plainly, but not the ones you are accusing me of. If my leadership is being questioned, it should be questioned for what I tolerated before I learned better. The room listened. Outside, support began to form where it had not existed before. Employees shared stories. Donors asked different questions. The foundation publicly reaffirmed its trust in Nathan's direction. Evelyn learned about the hearing from a message that arrived late one evening. From Nathan. No pressure, it read, but tomorrow they will announce the outcome. She stared at the screen for a long time before replying. I will be there, she finally wrote, in the audience. The auditorium was full again the next morning. This time, Evelyn took a seat in the open, not hidden at the back. When Nathan stepped onto the stage, their eyes met briefly. There was no signal, no reassurance, only recognition. The chair of the review board spoke first. "After a comprehensive investigation," she said, "we find no ethical violations in Mr. Harrington's conduct. Furthermore, we acknowledge that several prior governance failures were addressed under his leadership, not created by it." A breath moved through the room. "Effective immediately," the chair continued, "Mr. Harrington will resume full leadership responsibilities." Applause followed. Real this time. Earned. Nathan did not smile. He nodded once, steady, grounded. Afterward, as people gathered and conversations resumed, he found Evelyn waiting near the exit. "You did not have to come," he said. "Yes," she replied. "I did." They stood there, neither rushing forward. "This does not change what I said before," Evelyn continued. "I will not return to a role that exists to make you easier to question." Nathan nodded. "I would not ask you to," he said. "I would ask you something else." She raised an eyebrow. "To build something together," he said. "Public or private, defined by us, without contracts, without shields." Evelyn considered him carefully. This time, there was no pressure, no urgency, no leverage, only an invitation. She took a step closer. "Then start by walking with me," she said. "Not ahead, not behind." Nathan smiled, small and genuine. As they left the building side by side, the cameras outside caught a simple image. Not a power move, not a spectacle, just two people choosing to stand where there was nowhere left to hide. The city looked different when there was nothing left to prove. Spring arrived quietly that year, not with headlines or announcements, but with small changes that Evelyn noticed on her morning walks. Trees budding along the river, cafes setting tables outside again, the rhythm of life returning to something steadier. Nathan kept his word. There were no press releases, no staged appearances, no sudden reinvention. He returned to work with a narrower circle, clearer boundaries, and a leadership style that no longer relied on silence alone. Decisions were documented, conversations were direct. Accountability was no longer something implied, it was visible. Evelyn did not return to Harrington Global. Instead, she built something of her own. It started as a small consulting group, focused on ethics and organizational culture. Nothing glamorous, no polished branding, just a mission she understood deeply, helping institutions see the people they usually overlooked. Nathan supported her quietly, introductions when asked, space when needed, no interference. They met when time allowed, walks instead of galas, dinners that ended without strategy sessions, conversations that did not need witnesses. One evening, months later, they stood on the same riverwalk where so many decisions had once felt impossible. "I used to think power was about control," Nathan said, watching the water move slowly beneath the bridge. "Now I think it is about restraint." Evelyn smiled faintly. "I used to think walking away meant losing," she replied. "Now I know it means choosing." He turned to her then. "There is one thing I have not asked," Nathan said. She waited. "Not because I was afraid of the answer," he continued, "because I wanted to be certain I could accept it." Evelyn met his gaze, calm and unguarded. "Ask," she said. Nathan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small object. Not a ring, not yet, just a simple key. "To my place," he said, not as an invitation, as an option. She took it, feeling the weight of something offered without expectation. "I am not asking you to move in," Nathan added. "I am asking if you want a place in my life that does not require permission." Evelyn closed her fingers around the key. "This time," she said, "it feels like a choice." They did not rush the next steps. They never needed to. When they finally did stand together in public again, it was not at a gala or a board meeting. It was at the opening of Evelyn's first independent project, a community initiative that paired ethical leadership training with local mentorship programs. Nathan stood in the back, unnoticed by most. He did not step forward until Evelyn invited him. "This is Nathan," she said simply. He believed in this before it was safe to. Applause followed. Not for him, for the work. Later that night, as they walked home beneath quiet streetlights, Evelyn laughed softly. "You know," she said, "this all started with a cup of coffee." Nathan smiled. "And a resignation," he replied. "And a contract," she added. "Which you tore in half," he said. Evelyn stopped walking and turned to face him. "That was the moment everything became real," she said. When I stopped being protected and started being respected, Nathan took her hand, gently, without urgency. "This is the only version of us I ever wanted," he said. "No contracts, no leverage, no humiliation left unresolved. Just two people who had learned the same lesson from opposite sides of power. That love, like leadership, only works when it is chosen freely. And this time, they both stayed."